ain't got no boundaries to hold me back. Boundaries is what I lack. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Conflation Station. Hop on board the next train out, and let's take a ride to a place where anything's possible.
Hello and welcome to the Conflation Station. My name is Hugo Yorway and I'll be your tour guide for today's podcast, including political commentary, conspiracy theories, and some cool music from the Electric Love Orchestra. At the Conflation Station, our team of creative writers and novice journalists combine elements of irony, satire, and pure absurdity to create insightful political commentary and homespun conflated conspiracy theories taken from today's news headlines. In the first segment of our show, known as the 14th Circuit, or what I like to call the Court of Public Opinion, renowned raconteur the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield shares his unfiltered and unhinged views about America's constitutional crisis. His topic this week is Frameworks for Interpreting the Constitution. Rusty, the microphone is all yours.
Well, thank you, Hugo. Today I'm going to talk to y'all some more about the U.S. Constitution, including a few tidbits on how those guys and gals on that there Supreme Court goes about deciding what the hell it means. Now, as I keep telling y'all, while I ain't no lawyer or constitutional scholar, I feel as qualified as anyone to discuss the Constitution chapter and verse. I'll admit that unlike the good book, the Bible, amen, reading the U.S. Constitution can get mighty confusing. So if you have a moment, please allow me the opportunity to take a whirl at summing up some of that constitutional crap for you. Now, there's three different schools of thought when it comes to figuring out exactly what that there Constitution means. First, there's the folks that believes that every word in that there Constitution should be taken literally. In other words, if it says something, that's what it is. Constitutional scholars call this here baby strict constructionalism. Well, if that ain't a goddamn mouthful, why can't they just call it is what it is-ism? Anyway, here's an example. In that there Second Amendment of the Constitution, it says that, quote, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end quote. Assuming we agree that the people means you and me, and bearing arms means keeping weapons, and infringing means that the government can't get involved, then I guess each and every person has the right to have a weapon, correct? No questions asked. It doesn't say what kind of weapon, and it doesn't state the purpose for which people can use their weapons. Well, you just hold on there 1 minute. Maybe it does. You see, just before them words, quote, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end quote, it also says, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, end quote. Well, here we go off to the races. Now, this passage requires some interpreting, don't it? Does a free state mean like the state of Georgia? It can't mean Michigan. Michigan wasn't a state when that there Constitution was written. Does this mean that you can bear arms only if you's in a militia? One can only assume that those militia foremen, Proud Boys, and Oath Keepers must take a liking to that passage. It also says well-regulated militia. Now, who's doing that damn regulating? Would that be our friendly congressman and congresswoman? At this juncture, this Second Amendment is becoming one indigestible word salad of questions, and is where the entire strict constructionalist theory don't hold no water. If we's to be taking the shit in that there Constitution literally, then why the hell does it require interpreting? Maybe we should ask the conservative justices on the Supreme Court. As an aside, I love using that term justices when referring to those fat cats on the Supreme Court, don't you? Maybe we should ask Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito to answer that question. They sure as hell can fill a 5-pound bag with 10 pounds of horse shit. Next, you got those folks who believe in the concept called originalism. Well, what the hell is that all about? These folks who believe in originalism think that their Constitution should be interpreted based on the understanding of the world the framers had at the time the Constitution was adopted. Now, if you recall, that their Constitution was ratified in 1788 and then first amended with the Bill of Rights in 1791. So let's talk a little about what the world was like circa 1790. First off, most people was farmers and couldn't read nor write. And if they could read, they did so by candlelight. Shit, the pencil wasn't even invented until 1795, and it took more than 100 years after that to figure out how to make a freaking paperclip. Heck, in 1790, people didn't know that Antarctica existed on the planet Earth, and it wasn't until 1930 that astronomers discovered the planet Uranus. In 1790, there was no industry, there was no electricity, there was no light bulbs, no trains, no cars, no airplanes, no radios, no television, no computers, no AI, no IVF, no LGBTQ+, no transgender people, and lastly, no nuclear power or nuclear weapons. Shit, the repeating handgun and rifle wasn't even invented until 40 years after the Constitution was ratified. How about this? In 1790, there were people in the US of A who owned slaves, and women did not have the right to vote. Now, who in their right mind, given the way the world was in or about 1790, and the way it has radically changed over the last 230 years, would ever try to interpret that their Constitution today based on the way things was when it was originally adopted in 1788? The folks who subscribe to that line of bullshit have their heads so deeply up their asses that they still think the Earth is at the center of our solar system and the world is flat. Hello, Copernicus and Galileo. In other words, they is in denial and delusional. Now, in addition to those tight-ass strict constructionalists and those delusional originalists, there's a third school of thought where constitutional scholars believe that the Constitution is a living document that should be interpreted based on the context of the current times. These scholars and Supreme Court justices are labeled liberals and activists. But let's stop right here and leave it at that for now. I'll be certain to circle back to the Conflation Station to discuss the mindset of these so-called political activists later. As I say at the end of each of my weekly sermons, if you and me put our pretty little heads together, we may still be able to figure out how to get this here US of A back on track. Thank y'all for listening.
Rusty Stubblefield is an unemployed certified auto mechanic and a deacon at the Church of Our Lady of Original Sin. And now, for a brief but poignant musical interlude composed by E. Dude X, sung by the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield, and performed by the world-renowned Electric Glove Orchestra. Stay tuned and we'll be right back with this week's Conflated Conspiracy Theories.
Shoot me with your rubber bullets. Hit me with your steel batons. Scare me with your flashbang smoke bombs. Zip tie and bind my arms. Shoot me with your rubber bullets. Hit me with your steel batons. Scare me with your flashbang smoke bombs. Zip tie and bind my arms.
Thank you, Rusty, E. Dude, and the Electric Glove Orchestra for sharing that splendid rendition of Descent, now available online at Bearberry Path Music. In our next segment, we'll be sharing various homegrown conspiracy theories that have been developed by our staff of creative writers and novice journalists who believe first and foremost that at the Conflation Station, anything is possible. We invite you, our listeners, to share your own homegrown conspiracy theories by sending an email to bearberrypathmusic, one word, @gmail.com. That's bearberrypathmusic, one word, @gmail.com, and place the words conspiracy theory in the subject line. Today, we will be turning our attention to conflated conspiracy theories that focus on two parties. First, the Democratic Party, and second, President Trump's birthday party. Today's lead story focuses on the Democratic Party's plan to rebrand itself. After a crushing defeat in the 2024 presidential election to Donald Trump, the Democratic Party is searching high and low for ways to rebuild its image and regain the trust of American voters at the polls. "We've got to do something," said House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Jeffries went on to say, quote, "The traditional message of honesty, truth, equity, accountability, preserving the environment, and deeply held democratic values no longer resonates with the American people. We need to send a new, clear, and resounding message to voters that Democrats are here to help them." Democratic House member from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said, quote, "Democrats need to develop a new party platform from the ground up. It must be a bold grassroots movement that knocks on the door of every American home and reaches into every household." End quote. After a 4-hour closed-door joint session of House and Senate Democratic leaders, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer emerged to unveil the party's plan to win back public support. Schumer said, quote, "It's the economy, stupid. The Democratic Party has always stood for the American dream. Americans can no longer afford to buy homes, let alone absorb the cost of maintaining them. Accordingly, we, the Democratic Party, pledge to provide home maintenance assistance at no cost to every American homeowner, regardless of their party affiliation. If you need a home repair, house cleaning, or even need your lawn mowed, reach out to a senator or House member who is a Democrat, and they will personally come to your home to perform the service free of charge." End quote. To that, House Minority Leader Jeffries said, and I quote, "Our house is your house." End quote. Jeffries told the crowd of reporters that he had already received approximately 17,000 requests for lawn mowing services, and that he, along with his environmentally responsible electric lawnmower in tow, were on their way to Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, and Georgia to get the job done. Jeffries added that he will also bring his weed whacker, trimmer, and leaf blower if need be. South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, a former plumber, said, quote, "As a legislator, I've seen shit shows before, and if it takes unplugging your toilet to regain your trust and get your vote, I'm all in, hands down." California Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi said that as an expert in making a mess of things, she was on her way to tornado-ravaged districts in the south-central part of the U.S. to help dust off bookshelves. Independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders indicated that while he supported the Dems' plan to retake the hearts and minds of Americans by performing home maintenance tasks, he did not support including lawn mowing as part of the package. Sanders said, and I quote, "People spend tens of thousands of dollars on expensive irrigation systems, toxic lawn fertilizer programs, and of course use billions of gallons of precious water to keep their lawns green every year. You water your lawn to grow your grass, only to cut it, and then water it again to cut it again. This is environmentally unsustainable. If Democrats truly want a grassroots movement, then just let the damn grass grow on its own." End quote. Sanders later contradicted himself by stating that he would still rather cut the grass than cut the federal budget. And now it's time to take a musical break and listen to the vocal gesticulations of the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield and the inimitable sound of the one and only Electric Love Orchestra performing a tune entitled "The Score's Still the Same."
I've seen this game before, and I'll see this game again. And the score's still the same. The score's still the same. Yes, the score's still the same. The score's still the same. I'll watch again once more, 'cause I do enjoy the pain. But the score's still the same. The score's still the same. Yeah, the score's still the same. Yes, the score's still the same. I thought we hit a grand slam last time, but this time there's no men on base. But the score's still the same. The score's still the same. Yeah, the score's still the same. Yes, the score's still the same.
Thank you, boys. And now we turn our attention to our next story, which focuses on the National Parade in celebration of President Donald Trump's 79th birthday. On June 14th, 2025, Donald Trump will be celebrating his 79th birthday. This just happens to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. Il Trumpo will be pulling out all the stops on that day to show world leaders from across the globe that fascism is alive and well in the U.S. At an estimated cost of $25 and $45 million, one-third of that cost going to road repairs, the parade will place America's military might on full display for the entire world to see. The parade will include 7,000 military personnel, parachute jumping by the Golden Knights, 28 60-ton Abrams tanks, 28 Bradley fighting vehicles, Paladin howitzers, and precision rockets and missile systems, all of which will be rolling down a well-protected parade route traversing Constitution Ave after 6:30 on that day. The parade route will be cordoned off with 18 miles of anti-scale fencing and will be surveilled by multiple drones throughout the festivities. The parade will also showcase America's global air superiority with 8 Chinook helicopters, 16 Apache helicopters, 16 Black Hawk helicopters, and flyovers by F-22 fighter jets. When asked about the significance of this event, Trump said, quote, "This is going to be the biggest and best birthday party I've ever had." When asked what role he had in planning the extravaganza, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that he was asked to contact Stormy Daniels to see if she would jump out of the president's birthday cake. Secretary Hegseth said when he contacted Miss Daniels, she informed him that she already had a prior commitment on that date. Hegseth told reporters that upon learning Daniels was unavailable, he immediately contacted Attorney General Pam Bondi to fill in. Bondi responded, quote, "It would be my honor to serve the president in any way I can. He can have his cake and eat it too," end quote. Hegseth said that if Bondi declined, he was going to ask White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt if she would answer the call. Trump said, quote, "If this parade is a success, I plan on having military parades for all of my immediate family members," end quote. Our sources at the Conflation Station confirmed that plans are already in the works for a naval parade for Melania Trump's birthday, a Coast Guard parade for Ivanka, an Air Force parade for Baron von Trump, a Marine parade for Eric Trump, and a Space Force parade for Don Jr. Last but not least, the parade will feature several theme-based floats commemorating milestones in American history. Most notable in this category will be a float entitled Patriots Forever, recognizing the men and women Trump recently pardoned for their roles in the January 6th insurrection, and the second float commemorating the 2 failed impeachment and assassination attempts against the president called Teflon Don. Finally, Trump said, quote, "If I had known sooner, I would have held the parade in downtown Los Angeles. LA is the perfect place for a military parade."
Well, we've reached our destination. We'll be back next week to pick you up for yet another journey to and from the Conflation Station.